we're talking about contacting guides today. So,
Yeah.
Being new to this, anyone who's new to this, can you explain what your guides are before we talk about contacting them?
Yeah, guides are on the other side. When we talk on the other side, there's this veil or this other world, this other place, this unseen world in which you can actually tap into, which we actually in touch with all the time. People don't realize we're in touch with this world. It's part of us. It's not that it's separate. It's just we've not learned or we've been manipulated not to be in touch with that world. Very sad, but it's a natural thing that unfortunately, and I'm going to show you how to access that. It's very simple formulas I've got in order to get into that side. It takes a bit of practice, but I'm nonetheless going to show basic principles how to actually do it.
Great. So so where would we start then? So if I'm new to this and I wanted to contact my guides, what's the first thing you'd tell people to do?
Okay, let me start off by giving a bit of background to us psychics. What happens, a lot of people see us psychics and they will see us basically on form. When I say on form, that means when people who are not in touch with their psychic world come to us and they ask us a question, we can usually answer them either in the moment, or we will need to meditate, or we'll go away and we'll think about it and we can come back with answers. Now, a lot of people who are not into, or who feel they can't contact the spirit world, what they tend to do is they think we are like that 24 hours a day, and we are not. Although we are in contact, we don't need to contact those people all the time. You'll have a look at John Edwards on the TV. When he does his shows, he's like in touch all the time. There's I can't think what that other medium is called. I think she's called Long Island Medium. You get those people who are just in touch, but they tune themselves into that level, and then we can actually stay in that. But on a daily basis, when we're operating within this world, we are not permanently by choice in touch with that world all the time. So I want to just debunk for a lot of people who think they can't do it, that don't assume the psychics live in that place. We are supposed to live in that place, but I want to try and make it simple where people realize we don't stay in that place because we've still got material bodies in the world around us to take care of. In this material world, we don't always tap into the psychic world. We will tap into it when we need something, but on a daily basis, doing mundane work, we don't tap into it. So I think that's very important that people understand when they see these psychics, that we can shift our energy, we can shift our focus, we can shift our consciousness into that place. But it's not to say that looking at it from the outside, well, they just do it all the time. Yes, we can by choice, but remember, we've worked on it for many, many years. So for us, it's natural. It's like writing. We don't communicate all the time by writing. Only when necessary do we then put pen to paper and we communicate through writing. So it's not something that we live with daily, 24 hours a day, just to help them, people that, well, they just do it at leisure, at random, effortlessly. It's training.
Is it possible to both be walking and talking in this world and using your astral body, if you like?
Yes.
Or do you have to be like stationary, meditating, or asleep? So you can use it. If you're that advanced, you can walk and use your guides as well.
Yeah, I'm going to get into explaining how that actually works. Yes, we can do both at the same time, but we don't realize how to do it. A very simple example I could give is, while you might be like, I'm talking with you, I'm also thinking of something else. I'm thinking of what I'm going to say, the approach I'm going to use, all that. So I'm doing two things at the same time. That's actually how us psychics do it. It's just that we're aware, we're on. That's why piano playing is very important. With piano playing, you learn to operate the left hand and you learn to operate the right hand. So when you learn to do both, well, they call that ambidextrous or bi whatever. And that's all you got to do with the brain or the mind, is you just got to train yourself to access both dimensions at the same time. It's just training. It's just habit.
Right. So meditation and that, is that just for starters?
Yes, that would be a good place for people to learn to see or hear or feel or perceive things. So that would be the training ground for one to start to learn that there is another place that I can tap into at any time. So that's a start point. Yes.
Have you seen the master, the Chinese master, who can set things on fire and set electric jolts through people's bodies?
Yes, I have seen.
Do you believe that? Is that true? Can you do things like that? Yes.
It is very true. He was. You see, this is again when we get into these states, it's not about an ego. An ego brings you back into this physical world, and that's a very negative to actually develop this process further. And that master has refused to do any more interviews because his ego got in the way. So he just said, I'm withdrawing and I'm not going to ever give an interview again, because he actually hurt somebody when he pushed that stick through the table, and he realized his ego got in the way. So ego is one of our downfalls.
So are you possible to do things like that? Is it possible for you to heal with your hands?
Yeah, I've got I in particular got healing abilities. Yes, so I'm very much in touch with what the hands can do. I'm very wary as to who I touch. From a child, you will instinctively know what you're good at. It's not that somebody has to tell you. You just will realize, but I'm different then. We tend to make our differences wrong because we're not with the masses. But our differences are our inherent treasures. They are our inherent abilities. And from a child, I just knew that the touch was more than just physical contact. It took you into another world. Lobsam Rampa as well. He could touch and feel things. He's in the meantime being debunked as being genuine. But the thing is, he had some of those abilities where you can actually feel. There's a ability called psychometry. Psychometry is where you can take a personal belonging or something, whether it's their watch, whether it's jewelry or something that they wear regularly, and a person who is in touch with feelings or has got that sense of touch can actually hold it, and we can perceive things and we can know. So we can see the future, we can tell about that person's current state, we can tell, especially highly sensitized or highly charged energies, we can pick up on that simply because we can tap into on the non-physical world. So yes, healing with my hands, that's natural for me. Yeah.
Can you see your own death as well? Is that possible? To know when you're going to die?
If you are this, okay, yes, you can. Short answer, yes, you can. But we talk of death in this physical body as if there's only one death. But if the soul is eternal, we've died many, many times, and we get so focused and so blackmailed and in fear of death that we don't realize we've done it so many times, because the soul is eternal. How many times have we died? How many times are we going to die? So we have this focus and this fear factor that's put on us about death. It's not such a big issue. When you go to sleep at night, that's another form of death. Well, nobody fears. Kids fear sleeping, going to sleep in a dark room. Yes, they will, because they know they're going into another world and they can't hold on to anything that's safety, a safety net around them. So they tend to cry. Those kids are in fear, but they're very much in touch. They're entering another world. That's death. So yes, if you start thinking, haven't you noticed you have a conversation with somebody and the person's like gone somewhere else? They think you're something else, and you say, listen, you're present. That person's actually gone into another world. But we don't realize that these things we're actually doing these things all the time. We think it's a special technique. No, it's not. We do it all the time. We just don't realize, we haven't been tutored or we haven't been trained to realize we're off into another place. So it's not difficult once you can just shift your consciousness to realize I'm actually accessing different dimensions.
So why has this information been withheld from us?
When you look at what the physical world, there's a process I'm going to explain. It's basically a control mechanism. I want to explain it shortly. What the elite have done by keeping us only in the physical world. If they can keep us only in the physical world, they can separate or compartmentalize our concept of life. And once you compartmentalize, where you can separate clearly a person's being, their spirit or non-physical aspect from their physical aspect, once you can separate those two, you can control a person. You can basically get them to do anything you want through fear, through control. So they have done that on purpose so that we can stay within the physical world. So the whole trick, if you can read between the lines now, the whole trick is if you can realize to access the other world as well as this one, you'll be less fearful of death. You'll be less fearful of control systems, control mechanisms in place. And you'll also realize that there's more freedom. So that's the advantage. They don't want you to realize that freedom actually is just on the other side. Yeah.
The problem is, people have been taught that voices and things like that are demons, you know. And it's even in the Muslim religion, they're called the jinn. Don't listen to the voices, and like in the Christians, it's demons. But I suppose there's ones in Hindu and everything. And everyone's telling us not to listen to these voices, so it goes against everything we've been taught, you know, to actually. And you hear of ex-Illuminati members that have gone back to Christianity, saying, you know, I've seen one where he was actually a vampire who used to live off blood, just blood. And he said he went back, it's just dark and, you know, things like that. It just gets a bad rap, doesn't it, this sort of thing? Speaking to people and contacting guides. So can you try and tell us why that is, and what have they got to hide? What is it that we can gain from this?
At the end of the day, it's control. They don't want to give us the secrets because they want to control these material bodies. They want to control this domain. Yeah. If I can keep you totally engrossed in your job, I've got the most productive person, or let's call it, I've got the most productive instrument. I've got the most productive tool in front of me that I can use solely to my advantage. So I'm going to manipulate you not to think on anything else while you're at work, but only to focus on my aim, what I desire. Now, if I can get you to think like that all the time, I've got you totally under my control, and you're going to give me money, and you're going to give me production, you're going to give me a lot of what I want. When we start realizing by freeing our minds, this is why I like the Matrix. There's parts of the Matrix that, for me, the trilogy, the Matrix, when you free your mind, it's to realize that you want to actually snap out of the physical world. You want to go into other worlds. And once you see possibilities, it's then that you will free your mind, because you realize there's other dimensions, other places. We're not limited to this physical world. We can right now, everybody can right now, like in dreams, access other places. You can access other teachers. You can access other information. You can access non-physical truths. You can access formulas that are not confined to this physical world. So we can actually start living on another dimension while we're here. That's what dreams are. Dreams are another dimension that we can actually access. I mean, they say you're not allowed to hear voices, but suddenly it's okay if you dream. What's the difference? Doesn't make sense. But we get caught up by them because they're the authority, and they've got these PhDs and they've got these doctorates, that they are now the authority. But if we are soul, we are spirit, one naturally should logically ask yourself, who really is my authority? Who is the authority we should be listening to? And unfortunately, we give our power away because they keep trapping us in only what we see in this physical world. So this, again, reading between the lines, if you can see, it's not that we confine ourselves, or us psychics, we do not confine ourselves to this physical world. That's probably the greatest tool.
When was this created? This sort of matrix, if you like, was this during the Dark Ages? When
that was created,
because we had the information up to the Dark Ages, didn't we? And then there was a big book burning and loss of information during the Dark Ages. Can you tell us what happened there?
The Dark Ages is about, the bottom line of the Dark Ages was not so much about the book burning or getting rid of information. What the Dark Ages did is the aim of the Dark Ages was to separate your spirit half, or your spirit section, from your physical section. That was the bottom line of the Dark Ages. It wasn't about information. It was about separating the spirit from the physical. That was the whole function, the whole purpose behind that Dark Ages. And this is where science will deal with white matter and dark matter. That's what they're separating. So even still today, they are still putting us through Dark Ages by not giving us these answers. So although we think the Dark Ages occurred and it's gone, no, it's still here. It's happening right now. And that is simply with the internet. People are more inclined to believe the internet. If I want to check up something, I'm going to go into the internet and I'm going to research it. Why are we not tapping into our real source, the source that's got access to everything? Instead, we limit ourselves to this physical dimension. So this is why I said a couple of videos back, we need to realize that all this physical stuff should be a secondary reference point. And we need to access, when we pray, we're not allowed to hear voices, but suddenly it's okay that we can hear God speak to us. How do we know as an external or an outsider the difference between those so-called scientists saying he's hearing voices and suddenly a saint hearing God speak? What's the difference?
And another bad rap you have as well is people, if you believe in this, I think people automatically believe you believe in a devil, and you're sort of devil worshipper. Does Lucifer come into this, in any way?
Well, Lucifer means he means the light bringer. So if we think of the light bringer, there's a fine line here. I don't want to get too technical with this because some people are going to swing one way, some people are going to swing the other way. But we just got to think logically. Is Lucifer a concept or is he a being? So that would be the start point. So a lot of people call him Lucifer, the devil. Now, again, like we call Jesus the Christ, you've got Lucifer, the devil. So we're talking on two different levels here. We're talking one on a concept and one on a physical or a manifestation. And people tend to just bridge the two and make it one and the same thing. It's not the same thing. So again, that conspiracy, that control system to make you think that this darkness or this other side, we're not supposed to access it because we must be trapped into this physical world. That's the control mechanism that's in place. The more you only accept the physical, the more you're in trouble.
Also, who set up this system? Has this been from Sumerian time, from when we had our DNA mixed, or is this a new thing, or have they done it? It's like the Matrix, they've done it like 6 or 7 times, and, each attempt.
It was set up before, let's call it creation. Yeah. Where that originated was when, without going in too deep, I want to try and get this on a basic level. God as source, or whatever you want to call that being, that originator, that beginning point, he is this void, or he is this place from which, I don't like the word he, because God is not a he. It's not a male thing. It's not a female thing. The source is the origin of everything. Now, in order to have the origin of everything, that means it must have both good and bad together. Where the system you're asking, when was it brought in? You had those beings, if you want to call it that, the beings that were in control of this place, the matrix as you call it. They knew that there is the source that has the potential of everything within, good and bad, but they didn't separate it. They just accepted, when you see something, well, look at its polar opposite, look at the other side to form the whole picture. That would be, let's call it the spirit world. Then you got to these people who, even before the Sumerians and the Phoenicians and the Babylonians, even before them, our creators, the gods that created them and the gods that created them. Going back to the beginning of creation, you had these beings who on the one side accepted that there was source who had the potentiality of both sides. They didn't separate them. You looked for both. Then you had the other side who then decided, no, let's separate those things and let's give them labels, good and bad, day, night, right, wrong, whatever, all the polar opposites. Once you label something, once you separate the good from the bad, you can no longer get to source. If you can no longer get to source, you will struggle to see spirit. So people want to believe that God is just pure light. He's pure goodness. But if God is the owner of everything, how can it be limited to one thing, one concept of life? That's illogical. So you had those beings, these creators coming late, our creators, who then separated these concepts and said good and bad. Once you log on to the good and bad concept, you're stuck in the physical. And it starts before human creation. It starts before the creation of our gods. It goes back right to the beginning.
So,
does that make sense? Have I explained it adequately that you can grasp where we go from source and then we separate the potentialities, the possibilities of everything within source? We separate them. Once we separate, that's where the whole physical or matrix came into being.
So who set that up? Was that the reptilians, or was that the Federation of Light, or?
It goes right to the beginning. It goes to the from the highest level. So you'll get the source, the creator, whatever you want to call it. When you get to that level, source has got everything. The level below that, or the next step below that, that's where it occurred. So that occurs even before the Anunnaki, even before the reptilians, the draconians. It goes back way beyond that. It goes back into other dimensions. So if you look at these Anunnaki, they're living here on the third dimension. We're talking on these other dimensions that transcend right back to the beginning.
I didn't mean this dimension. I meant like basically all our history is a lie, or is there any truth to it?
Yes.
Is there any truth to it?
No. When we say there's no truth to it,
like the Victorian age and like Henry VIII, did them people exist, or like was they just made up?
Some of them existed, but some of them were made up. Pythagoras, I like the inner earth. I like the Agarthan principle. I like the other side. Now, Pythagoras is, according to maths and science, deemed as a human who came up with these various mathematical formulas. He was not human. He came from inner earth. So what the result is, when you have a look at these things, these beings from elsewhere, they're not limited to like where we are. So no, they go beyond what we understand. They're not from our place.
So there's no humans in power on Earth?
No.
Just hybrids?
No,
There's hybrids, or are they below the main gods, the aliens, if you like? If when I say they don't look nothing like us, in other words, or are they hybrids?
For this dimension, this Earth dimension, this physical body is the most economical, or the most, let's call it, ergonomical body for this place. So even that three-fingered mummy that's been found in Peru, what happened there is that mummy they found that 3 fingers is not as efficient as 4 fingers, so they altered their DNA to develop 4 fingers and a thumb to take on the look of us. We assume that we are human, that this is our form, but this is not who we are. We are not this form. Even as humans, this is not us.
This is a spacesuit, if you like.
Yeah, we've taken on this form because it's correct for this place. But when you move off into another place, in your dreams, how many people in their dreams have actually looked at their own bodies? In your dreams, you'll always see other things. Very seldom do you actually get to look at yourself. But in your dreams, why do we never look at ourselves? Because usually we're in another form.
So here's a big one for you. What is our true form? Is it like a worm of light? Is it like a soul? Is it a ball, an orb? Is it something like that?
When we talk of light, this is another thing that might also help people. When we talk of light, we assume light as in like a torch or a halogen light shines and it's white. Proper, true, pure light is not white. Proper, true light is crystal clear. It's clear, you can't see it. It's transparent, it's invisible. That's the source, that's actually light. So when we talk of light, we must distinguish between white light and clear light. They're 2 totally different things. So our original form is that crystal light. Now, when you look at crystal light, look at the air around you. Now, it's not the same thing, but to try and explain it on a level of words, the air that we see around us is crystal clear. Now, that's got the source of everything. When we get inspirations, when we're talking with people, when we're looking at other people, when we're listening, everything that goes on occurs within this space of potentiality, space of possibility. So that's the crystal light. That's our source. So you could ask yourself, okay, what's the shape of the air around me? That's our form. But we think we're physical. We think we're limited to this body. And yet people who are close to each other, families who have bonds with each other, can be on another continent, something happens to them and we can psychically pick up something's wrong. Where's the connection? How's that connection if we're limited to this body? We are in touch with everything. Now we need to extend and go beyond this place, this physical world, and move off into another dimension. How do we contact that? Just know who you are. Get into this other world. Don't limit yourself to this physical world. Something else I want to say with people when they want to start accessing or want to start developing their psychic abilities. When I was a child, and I'm sure many people have gone through this, we mock and we make people wrong when they talk with themselves. I don't know if you've ever, was that something that was, you used to mock other people because our parents used to say that he's mad because he's talking with himself? How many times have you heard that? In actual fact, if you think about it, if we're talking with ourselves or that person is talking with himself, who are they talking with? Are we just talking with this physical body? That's already a sign to tell you you've got psychic abilities that are activating. So it's a very good thing to talk with yourself. That's the start of the process of activating your psychic.
What, like an imaginary friend sort of thing? Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Who are they? They're not imaginary. They are real. And the kids, we usually mock them. And the kids, we knock it out of the kids. But in actual fact, how do we know the kid's not actually seeing that? I've got an autistic, a family up the road who's got an autistic child. that child sees fairies the whole time. And they just think she's just imagining. She's not imagining. But you see, the autistic child has now tapped into another dimension. Why these autistic kids got such superb abilities is because they can tap into other dimensions that's beyond ours, and then they become supernatural. Well, what's another word for supernatural? That's spiritual. That's guardian angel. That's source, whatever you want to call it.
Why is it mostly kids that see these things? Is that
Because
because your pineal gland is less calcified?
Yes, but they've also not been brainwashed. They've not had society beat it out of them that you're mad. You see, that's the whole thing with these people, and that's why I said in one of my previous videos, if you want to develop your psychic abilities, hang around with people who are psychic. They're not going to make it wrong when you see and hear things. Because we as psychics are actually going to, because we're not tuned into everything. We can't do that. We're limited with these brains. We can't tune into everything. As psychics. But if somebody else says something and they say, I heard this, we're going to say, well, what did you see? We don't make it wrong. We're like, cool. Well, I need to know, because do I need to protect myself? Is it something that I should learn from? Is it something I can benefit from? So we don't make it wrong. We are willing, we are open to accept information, knowledge, stuff from somewhere else. You know, the religious people want to say, God spoke with me. Well, is that not voices? But suddenly a religious experience versus a non-religious experience, and they're two different things. It doesn't make sense. It's illogical. Okay, so I want to try and help people here to get into this state. Number one, practice talking with yourself. Because when you're talking with yourself, it's not that you're just needing to hear your voice in order to work through something, to come up with a solution. In actual fact, you're talking with something else. So when you're talking with something else, you're opening up your mind to the possibility that you can contact something else. So you've already then switched gears in your mind to be able to access another dimension. The other thing is, when we look at life around us, life is very, very hard. Life is very negative. Life's very difficult for many, many people at the moment. Now, the more pain that one goes through, the more suffering that one goes through, the more likely those people are, they're driven to tap into another dimension for some solace, for some help, for some, and I'm not talking that they're praying to God. They're just looking for something else. Because sometimes an atheist, for example, would just say, I need some other inspiration. I need help from somewhere else. Let's not call it God. And they open up their ability to tap into another dimension. So now, there again, you can see, which I said earlier when I started with you, once you limit yourself to this physical dimension, you're stuck. You're not going to access your spirit guides. So you've got to realize that through pain, through suffering, it's the impetus that drives you into the other side or into another possibility.
Yeah. Sorry, Holger. Do you know when a priest says, God spoke to me last night and things like that, are they not just contacting their guides?
Yes.
Yeah,
yes.
So, but they're keeping the information for themselves, aren't they? They're not learning, they're not guiding people how to do this for themselves.
Well, they have to fall in with the system. You see, the system that's in control of this world wants to keep us here because they've got their own agenda. Now, we can either choose to fall in with that agenda and keep coming back and keep being a slave to them, or we can choose to free ourselves by saying, all right, let me tap into another place, another places. Yeah. And with that priest, he's not allowed to always tell people who he's talking with. Right. I mean, the deacons, when they go for training, the deacons are not as high as the priests. The deacons get taught in churches about astrology, but they're not allowed to talk about it to the masses because astrology is being kept quiet.
By the way, I don't want to hit on the church after, especially what happened in America. It's terrible what happened. You know, going into a church, a place of worship, and killing people like that is disgusting.
Well, you see, they're trying to damage our belief in God. So what they're doing psychologically here is they're saying you mustn't access these other dimensions. Your belief, your faith, your strength, your power lies in these hierarchies that are on earth. Don't believe anything else. Believe what you can see. So this is the whole fight between science and church.
Yeah.
So it's a control mechanism. So they are bullying us.
Well, it's not just church, is it? It's church and mosque and synagogue. You know, it's not. There are a lot of them, really, isn't it?
Anything non-physical. Paganism has been wiped out and said that's bad long ago. Now they're knocking all these religious fraternities, these religious organizations, because they want you to discount. Look how the separation is taking place more and more. Get rid of the non-physical. So they're grounding us more and more into the physical world. Once you get grounded purely in the physical, Andrew, you're screwed. You're not going to be able to access these other dimensions. You are not free. So that's the whole point. So, yeah, okay. On the priest, they do know, but they're not allowed to tell. And some of them genuinely also don't know, but they're aware of something else. So it depends on their level of consciousness. That's why that silence, those vows that they take, those vows of silence are very important. Because when you go into, even in jails, when you go into that black hole, they lock you away in that solitary confinement. What are we accessing, Andrew? What are they accessing? So silence is very, very important. That's where meditation, what you asked about earlier, it allows you to realize there's something beyond this physical world. Yes.
Yeah, because it's funny you talk about prison, because that cult leader, what was he called? In America, he was very spiritual. He used to get all his followers to take LSD and all that sort of thing. And he says he can travel out of prison and stuff like that. So this is what he's on about. He's traveling,
yeah. Depending how much you can activate your own stuff, you can travel physically, but what's the benefit of that, traveling from one place to the other? I would think that if you're going to do something, if you want to master something, don't master something for what I call bling. Master it for something that's really going to enhance your being to such a degree that you can actually free yourself entirely of this place.
Also,
so if you want to...
How do you build a macabre?
Macabre is done through visualization.
Right.
What I must do, Drunvalo Melchizedek, you can go and have a look at his works. He actually explains how to build the macabre. It's done through breathing. It's done through mantras. You'll breathe in and out on the first mantra, posture. I can't think of the word posture. These, what's the proper word they use for the postures? So you've got breathing that you will do. You've then got your certain poses and postures that you'll use. You need to do that. You've also got to do visualization. And then you've also got to come from a sense of well-being, putting out the heart energy to everything. Not everybody, everything. And then we don't want to limit as well just to this physical world. So Drunvalo Melchizedek actually explains how to do that whole process. So he's done it in the different steps. First, you're going to do it with your few breaths in the beginning. Then you're going to change your breaths. You're going to move into another form of breaths. You're going to change it again until eventually you can actually then activate your macabre. So Drunvalo Melchizedek, go and search him up on the internet. You can see how he teaches you how to do it.
Right. Well,
yeah,
I'll have a look at that.
Yeah. Okay, so what I want to explain is this suffering, this pain, this trauma that we go through, that is the impetus to push us out into another place. So that is key. So I want to help people understand that negativity and trauma and the suffering that we're going through is not always necessarily a bad thing. However, what the controlling system wants to do is it wants to keep us focused solely on the physical. We need to realize that we need to go beyond the physical. That's where the sages and the yogis of long ago would say, take a deep breath, close your eyes, and then just breathe it all away. Well, you're going somewhere else. So the thing is that we need that impetus, that pain. The deeper the pain, usually the further you can go out if you're new to this. So pain is actually a positive used in that light. What it does, the bottom line with what I'm going to do is I'm going to explain, basically it's a 3-step process. I want to explain the 3-step process through a famous cult trilogy. And it's in various trilogies, various movies, various things. The secrets are there. I want people also to realize that it's not just purely run by bad people on earth at the moment. There are good people as well. So when you start realizing what I'm now going to describe to you, you're going to realize that it's not just the bad people who are in control of this place. There are actually good guys who are in control, and they're giving us the secrets in another way without being limited to just purely the bad guys being in control. If this is a planet of duality, day and night, right and wrong, hot and cold, good and bad, if this is a planet of duality, we should not limit ourselves to thinking that it's just ruled by bad people alone. It's certainly gross, but it's not that it's only bad. There is good. And I'm going to explain how to do this, connecting your spirit guides through the trilogy of the Lord of the Rings. Now, many people looked and watched the Lord of the Rings, but they don't realize how many secrets are actually given out there. The guy who wrote the trilogy, he wrote more, but the guy who wrote the trilogy, J.R.R. Tolkien, when he wrote it, he accessed another place in order to get this information. He accessed other dimensions. Another interesting fact about the author of Lord of the Rings, in my video, I don't know how many people got it, when I described Africa as the psychic powerhouse of the world, because it's accessing nodes or something else below in Argatha to the psychic or the beings from another place who are further out than the average being in Argatha. So Africa as a whole sits on, not the entire Africa, about 60% of Africa, sits on a psychic node that accesses deeper places. Now, the J.R.R. Tolkien, who wrote the Lord of the Ring trilogy, was born in Africa. And he was born in Bloemfontein in South Africa. So Africa as a whole has got a very powerful psychic ability. So if anybody wants to also access more of their psychic abilities, obtain natural products from South Africa, not manufactured, natural earth products. So this is where you're going to want to get gemstones, for example, from Africa. They're going to help you access your spirit world, because this certain part, if you go to one of the previous video where I was describing the psychic part of Africa, you'll see that it runs basically through the center. It cuts off the one part of Africa and the other horn of Africa. It cuts that off. But that central part from top to bottom is the psychic part of the world.
It's interesting you say that, because they always tell us the blood diamonds, don't buy stuff from Africa. And is this why? Because it's the most effective gems, if you like.
Well, the blood diamonds, we don't want to participate or be part of.
No, but they associate that with all the stones in Africa now. Probably, you know, people just stay away and think, oh, we're not. They've been slave. That's come from blood and stuff, you know. But they'll go and sniff a line of cocaine in the toilet, you know, and think nothing of it. They're crazy.
Can you? That is a valid point you bring there. So yes, can you see how they robbing our psychic accesses?
Yeah.
So yes, you're right. Take a simple stone, earth. Take a bit of soil from Africa, because it's from here. You've got so many different things. Different minerals are going to give you different gemstones, different minerals, different things vibrate at different frequencies, and different frequencies in essence take you to different dimensions. So this is why not everybody can use the same gemstone. What works for one is not going to work for another. Relative to your own frequency, if you can link in with a particular frequency, you're going to be able to travel to a particular place. Another person would need another stone to travel to another place, because we don't all come from the same place. We come from different places. This is why we need different gemstones to access different dimensions or different places.
So how would that work? Just by holding it in your hand?
Yes, simply having that frequency vibrate or exude its aura onto you is going to realign, is going to adjust your frequency so that you can access other places.
So when you see the star on the floor in films
Yes.
and things like that, and you see the candles, and then you see stones, is this like a key, if you like, or a gateway that they're creating?
Yes.
Different stones, and like they'll put some, even voodoo, they put blood of animals, chickens, and sacrifice things. And is that what's the sacrificing? What's that got to do with things?
When in many philosophies, in many cultures, blood is always understood to be the energy, the core. It holds the essence of a being. It's known as the sap. That's why we'll use aromatherapy. Aromatherapy is very powerful because that's the essence or the energy of a plant. Well, the same is with the blood. The blood is the access to that person's vibration, that person's frequency, that person's energy. But if that, in sacrifice, if we're going to use something of a lesser level, Andrew, why would you sacrifice something if you're going to reverse or stunt your energy, the frequency, the vibration? So you need to understand, when we're talking of blood sacrifices, although it can access, this is what vampires and the Draculas and all these guys are into, the blood is not the blood per se. They're accessing that energy field to somewhere else. Now, unless you know the frequency or the energy or the dynamic or the soul of that thing that you're sacrificing, Andrew, people don't know where they're going with that stuff. You don't want to access some of those places because what's right for them is not right for me. And then again, those circles with those usually pentagrams. Pentagrams, the five elements that are on earth. So pentagram we usually associate with all this negative devil worship. But the pentagram has got 5 different elements, natural elements that it links up. So this is why the 5 comes in. We've got the 5 basic elements of the human body, the 5 elements in alchemy. That's the whole pentagram. The pentagram is not necessarily just the symbol. It's understanding that you're linking up 5 different elements.
What would happen if you wrote a book of different keys and gateways? Would it not even get published?
No, they wouldn't want. They don't want to act. They don't want to.
Why is there no books like that? Why is there no books on the internet? Or is there and we just don't know about it?
There is, but they don't want them out. Remember, as I said, they want to limit you to the physical dimension. So the blood sacrifices, this is the sad part about these blood sacrifices. The blood sacrifices are grounding us more into this physical dimension, because usually we're accessing it through either animals. We'll access it through kids because the pineal gland is largest in a kid or hasn't been calcified as much. So usually we can get out. But we don't know what that kid has been through. Usually those kids who get sacrificed have had immense amounts of trauma. Now, if you've been traumatized like a schizophrenic, or what we sometimes will look at these people who are a bit touched in the head, Andrew, what dimensions have they accessed? Now, we're going to use their blood as a conduit to access what? Those places, some of those places I don't want to go. So therefore, I'm not going to use that blood. I'm not going to use that access, that portal, that gateway. I'm not going to do that. So people need to understand, when you're sacrificing something, understand its history. This is why when
just don't sacrifice anything.
Well, if you know where it's been and you know its history and you're clear, well, I want to go there, then go wild, sacrifice it by all means. But then you're going to say, I mean, it's crazy. I mean, that's the level of comprehension that people are at, that we're going to, so that blood is an access, it's a portal to somewhere else.
Right.
But if that person's been under trauma and that person's energy's been degraded, well, how can that be an elevating process?
There's an old Norse book from Iceland that's come out, and it's supposedly from thousands of years ago. It's just been rewritten. I can't remember the name of it at the minute, but that has a lot of spells in it and things like that. But it's so, the items that you need are so crazy. It's like a dead man's toenail, left third foot toe, and it must be a joke because you can't be that specific on ingredients.
No, they are. They are.
Why though?
They really.
Why?
Again, you see, what they're not telling you is in these books of spells actually work. They're not play, they're real stuff. But what people don't realize when they're accessing this is you must realize if I'm going to cut my nail and give it to somebody else, my history, my comprehension, my consciousness is in that nail. So what the result is, they're going to be able to, whoever uses my nail is going to be able to access my channel to elsewhere. So you don't just go and use any toenail. You need a specific toenail. And people they're not informed enough when they do these spells as to, we're talking energy here, we're talking light. Now, if people are going to access a gross person, a murderer, a psychopath's toenail, Andrew, you're going to go some very dark places. I mean, you don't want to go down some of those places.
And it's like, what's with virgins? Because there's spells about that, and how can that make a difference?
You see, when they talk of virgins, and that's what the whole smoking, the whole advertising game of the smoking world always used to portray these youthful bodies, beautiful youthful bodies. And this is why now facelifts and plastic surgery is also the rage. It's grounding us in this physical dimension. I mean, if you're as old as millions of billions of years, what has age got to do? What has youth got to do with it? What has the virgin got to do with it? So virgin is just another form of youth, another form of, they call it innocence. But if you think about it, because sex it opens up portals. Right. That so-called, that virgin hasn't accessed too many places. So it's basically a blank slate that you can use her blood
How does sex open portals? Is it a ritual?
Let me go very basic with this to explain.
Yeah.
When you have an orgasm, are you present in the physical body or not? You've like lost it. We've like gone.
Yeah.
That's a portal you've just opened. So this is why people who just do sex indiscriminately will access places, because you're now linking up with another vibration, another person. And I don't care whether it's guy or girl or whatever you want to do it with. If you're going to align yourself with another energy, you're helping or using that energy to get you off into another place. So this is where, again, it becomes very particular who you choose to have sex with. Yes, yes.
Yeah. How does it matter who you have sex with?
Because depending on their track record, let's call it their track record, their history, where they've been, their consciousness. You know, you're going to get some of these people who are just like, let's call it a murderer. If you're going to have sex, you know, I want to have sex with these gangsters. So I'm going to go and get a person in the gang, and I'm going to have sex with them, because they've got such a mind that accesses some really dark places. When I align my energy with them, where do you think I'm going? You know, you can't just have sex with anybody. That's not a good idea. And then these virgins, and usually, I mean, a virgin, how old is a virgin? So it's not just about the sex with the virgin, but it's actually the blood of the virgin. So this is sometimes where sacrifice will actually take place. Now, you're going to access an innocent being because they're basically an open slate, and that's an open porthole that you think I'm now going to direct and drive that porthole to where I wanted to go. But you don't know where that person has been. You don't know that family's background. You don't know her parents, because her blood comes through her parents, both her father and her mother. Now, what channels have come through there, and we're accessing that. So these various rituals that they do in some of these dark covens, those kids that are born into some of these families, some of these circles, have been traumatized second to none on purpose. And when you access that virgin's being, Andrew, you're not going to some very happy places. So you're actually going to degrade your consciousness, not elevate your consciousness.
So Ernst talks about. Sorry, can you just turn your volume down a little bit? Oh no, that's okay. It's okay. Ernst talks about portals moving, never in the same place.
You get different. Yes.
But
yes.
So there's them sort of portals. Is there any fixed portals?
Yes, definitely.
And also, you can create your own portal.
Yes.
So there's different ways of opening portals. There's many different ways. So we decide we want to go. Well, I wouldn't even know where to go. This is the problem, you see. So how do we?
Yes.
We open a gate this side. We know how to do that. But how do we know how to open the other side? What? Or do you just go through and then have to open it somewhere else?
No. You have to know where you're going. So that's the key, and that's what a lot of people who want to open wormholes or portals are not doing. They're not doing their homework as to what's on the other side. Now, we assume that these people, like the movie Stargate, Andrew, they knew what that other dimension is. They knew where it leads. So if you want to open a portal, the first thing you've got to do is you've got to know which destination you want to reach. It's logical. If you're going on holiday, you plan a holiday. We're working now in this office, and I'm going to go on holiday. So I've already got my point of origin. I'm looking for a point of destination. You don't just get home, say to your family, we're going on holiday, and the kids say, where are we going? Well, I don't know. No, that's not how it works. You better know where you're going, and that's the portal. To open a portal, don't just open up any portal. You don't know where it goes, and this is why some people don't come back. They get eaten on the other side. They get damaged. They get destroyed. You got to do your homework. Know where it ends.
So the only way of knowing this would be talking to people like you who's experienced this.
You can talk with me. You can talk with your own guides.
Yeah.
Yes, you can certainly do that. And this is where crystals vibrate at different frequencies. So when you realize that a crystal vibrates at a different frequency, you need to realize that accesses another place. And each crystal's got a different frequency. So you now need to ask yourself, are all crystals from Earth? Because why have they got different frequencies? So then you have to start asking yourself, when Earth was made, was it just made out of one dimension? You have to start asking yourself these questions. So if I'm going to access different things, you want to make a cake, sweet dessert, you want to make a cold drink, you're going to use different ingredients because they're going to give you a different end result. So people don't realize when you open a portal, the mediums, the physical mediums you use are key to get you to a specific destination. You don't want to just open any portal. You want to know the destination of where you're going.
So when you leave your body and you project, can you travel to the place you go when you're projecting in a portal? Is that a physical place?
This is where the consciousness, the frequency or the intensity of your desire is so important. This is where mind control, self-mind control, self-mastery comes in. Because if let's say a person freaks out and they get very angry and they just disappear, they have a blackout. Andrew, when that person's had a blackout relative to the intensity and the frequency with which they passed out, that energy has opened a portal to take them off to what dimension? Now, like attracts like. That's a basic formula. Like attracts like. So they've just opened a portal, passed out physically. Where have they gone? They are not in that body. They've gone somewhere else. And because of their like attracts like, their energy now with which they activated that portal takes them to that particular place. Some of those places are not happy. But again, what information is available for us to know what destinations to go to?
What if someone wants to speak to you? Is it possible for them to take your soul, if you like, or consciousness? Can they? Someone didn't say your guide wants to talk to you. Can he come and take your soul and take you to wherever he wants to? Or
yes, yes.
Is that ever happened to you?
Yes. Well, you need their help. This is where developing a relationship with your guides, it doesn't happen overnight. You've got to learn, can I trust my guide for a start? This person rocks up. Andrew, you're interviewing me. All the people who've been watching me now have got an idea about my general agenda. Where am I going? So people can, because they've developed this relationship, let's call it on that level, because they've developed this relationship with me, they can learn to either accept my information or, according to what they've seen, sorry, I'm out of here. So relative to the relationship you've developed with your guide, you trust them or you don't. So you're either going to say, I'm not going with you, buddy, or let's go. So you need, it needs time.
See, I'm a Protestant, but I don't believe in an invisible God. You know, I believe it's more of a culture. I'd say I'm a cultural Protestant. You know, that's more than a religion. I've only ever been to church once in my life. You know, well, a couple of times, marriages, and when I was christened.
Yes.
And that, but you know, I wouldn't shit on the Protestants and say, you know, oh, religions.
You've got reverence for him, yes.
You've got bad and good in everything, haven't you? So. Like you say, I'm not going to be against what you say, you know, or anything. I listen to it with an open mind, and I believe a lot of what you say. You know, it don't mean that I denounce everything about the culture of Protestant, you know. So I just want to make that clear that I'm not trying to say believe this and don't listen to the church, you know, or anything like that. It's just information. It's very interesting.
If you want to invest your money, you're not going to go to your English teacher. Yeah. You're going to go to some brain whiz with investments with money. So that's the same story. You're going to go to the priest for a particular destination. Yeah. You're talking and interviewing me. You're interviewing all the people on your site because they go to a particular destination. I can't take you to some of your other people's destinations. So what the result is, the people who ever resonate with me, and it's not to say everybody's going to resonate with me, because we're not all of the same frequency and some frequencies are not compatible. But you're going to then, as you say, for your priest, you will go to your priest for a particular destination. In this case, biblical help or biblical guidance. If you want to access another place, you're going to go to another person to reach that destination. So it's relative to the destination.
Like you say, I've never been to a church in my adult life, apart from weddings and stuff. So how can we be sure that they're not speaking about this in their private little meetings and things like that? Like a secret society would. Like even the church members, yes. the normal people.
Andrew, all churches are built on nodes, on energy nodes. All churches have got wormholes. They're not just built haphazardly. Yeah. They are consecrated. The whole ceremony to set up that church building requires a process, requires a ritual. That ritual activates, opens up a wormhole. So for people who want to stay away from a church, and again, you've got good aspects, you've got bad aspects, depending on the type of nodes, depending where they're set up, depending on the general energy. This is why you'll find churches of a previous religion are demolished and another totally unrelated religion comes and puts its church over it. Why is it built it on? Why doesn't it build it next to it or somewhere else? Because they know those nodes contain wormholes.
Right.
So churches, as much as people want to avoid churches, look how clever they are in stealing our access to other worlds. And I mean, a church has got that steeple. Look at the psychology in the building of the architecture. You look from the bottom and it takes you up and it takes you up. That raising or changing your focus, your consciousness up to another place is supposed to shift your consciousness so you can access another place. So churches are very, very spiritual, very deep dimensional access nodes. So people, and I mean, look how they're robbing our experiences to enter these churches. No, we don't going to go to church. That's old hat. That's not for me. Bad mistake. There are wormholes there that we're not using. But
Is
as
there
I say,
anything
relative
to do with the organ? Because you never see an organ anywhere really apart from a church. Is there anything spiritual about that?
Yeah. You see frequency, sound.
Yeah, the frequencies.
Sound. That's where mantras come in and hymns come in and the energy. Because how do you change your mood? You change your mood either through action, or you change it through a mental shift, or you can change it through voice.
Yeah.
So yes, the organ is very important, and the organ had a particular vibration when those pipes. That's why you'll get the length of the pipe is also relative. So you'll get different. These are different access. These are different ways to access.
Is this the same as a didgeridoo and like Tibetan ways of gravitating things and all that? It all comes from that, yeah.
All sound, yeah. You can choose to use sound positively, or you can use sound to destroy, to damage, to harm.
Yeah. Oh, can you?
So it's relative to how you use it. Yeah, I mean, some of the Shaolin monks know how to damage through the sounds in the sounds and the various touch points. When they strike a person on a certain point, some of those monks can just touch you, and you can get violently sick and actually die, and yet they haven't actually physically, forcefully hit you. And again, that's why the sounds must come out. So when you do martial arts is not just about the perfect form. You know, I'm going to do it's also about the voice and the intensity and the intent with which you put that voice. It's going to shift or change that energy.
Well, can I tell you, in boxing as well, you have I don't know if you've ever watched anyone training when they oosh, oosh and all that, when they hit the bags. I know it's releasing air, that's what they say, but when you look at the runic, they did shouts, runes, to make them more powerful and things like that. And when you look at it sounds like Furaz, which is the protection rune, and things like that. So, is that anything to do with it, do you think?
100%. That's exactly it. We don't realize the value of sound. And this is why when they've changed our language from the original classical languages, they changed it to English, the energy has flipped. So the language that we speak is not as effective. This is why we can't heal with our voice. So that's why you want to learn the old classical languages, Sanskrit, even Norse or Gaelic. You want to go back into those old, real classical languages, and that's why you want to do mantras in those languages. You don't want to do a mantra in our modern day language. It's not as effective.
Have you ever heard the Viking mantras? They're really spiritual, like get you right with the drums and everything.
Yes.
Or the Icelandic ones. Yeah. There was something else I had to say, but
if you're going to study all this, as I said, to access your guides, you want to first of all accept that there's another place. So us psychics, when we deal with our guides, we've had many years of experience that we can learn. We know who to trust because we've been dealing it with how many years, and that's why you'd go to what they call an expert or a professional, or somebody who's got a master's degree. They've mastered that aspect. Anyway, I don't know what time I've got. I'm just trying to get through all of this now.
Let me have a look what time we're on. Oh, we've been going an hour and 12 minutes already. It felt like half an hour, that, Holger.
How do you want to do this? Because now, I mean, I want to actually show the actual process, how to actually contact your God. I mean, we don't want to run this into over an hour. How do you want to do this, Andrew? Because I've got the actual process. It's a 3-step process, but it requires a bit of explanation. How should we do this for people?
If you want, you can do it now. It's up to you. Try and make it. Try and make it an hour and a half video. If you can do it in.
All right, but you're gonna. Okay, let's go for that. All right,
I can't really go over another half an hour because I've got things to do.
No, we don't even want to. I don't even want to. Yeah, I don't even want to do it really over an hour. Okay, let me get into. Okay, let me show you through some of these cult movies. We don't realize the messages that are in these cult movies. I'm going to share the screen here so that people can actually. Let's go here. Share screens. Right. Oh, what's happened? Okay. All right. Let's look at this. This is in this trilogy. This was written by Tolkien. Is this? Oh. Okay. All right. Can you see that clearly, Andrew?
Yep.
Okay. This was the first of the trilogy that he wrote. There's the Twin Towers. Now, the Twin Towers, you'll notice what's very important is one, basically within the human body, represents the pineal gland, and the other one represents the pituitary gland. Now, you'll notice what is so important that a lot of people don't realize. In these towers, there's a specific design for a reason. In these, doesn't matter which culture, which mythology, which religion, which aspect of ancient sciences, whatever you go to, you'll get the 2 towers. You get a lot of 2 towers in many, many different things. And people don't realize there are minute differences in these towers, not just the black and white. But if you actually have a look at the V at the top, you'll see that this actual formation of the 2 tops of each tower is different. And that very subtly tells us one represents a positive node and one represents a negative, what we call an anode and a cathode. So you need that in order to create a charge between the 2. So I'm gonna run through these three books to give you a basic overview, then I'm going to come back and explain. So you'll see there that you've got the actual 2 towers. That describes you need 2 points. And again, this is with wormholes. You need this point and you need the other point. A lot of aspects go on here. So you've got the 2 towers, very important for beginning and an end, or to reach and go through. The next point you want to have a look at is we've got this book. This was his second book. Now, in his second book, The Fellowship of the Ring, it's not the ring on the top that you want to look at. You want to look at those strange calligraphy or that strange writing on the side with the let's call it the 2 flames. Can you see them there?
Yeah.
On either side?
Yeah.
So this now is the Fellowship of the Ring, where you're bringing them together. So the bringing together of them is what is important in the second step. Then we're going to go to, let's see if I can find, where's the other one? Okay, here we go. Then you've got, this was his third book, The Return of the King. Now you've got this circle, this green circle. That now is the return of the king. Now this is the process in all philosophies, in all mythologies, in all religions. This is the process how to achieve getting in touch with the source, getting in touch with God, getting in touch with your spirit guides, whatever you want to call it. This is the 3-step process. And these 3-step processes are shown in different ways to different cultures at different times in history. But the essence of them stays the same. So I want to go back. Let's go back to this one. Where's his 2 towers? Right. Right, in the human brain, we look at our 2 towers. Our 2 towers in the brain are the pineal and the pineal. The pineal and the pituitary gland. You need the two glands, and they sit within that nestle, that little pocket on top there. So it's important to realize you've got two opposite energies here, positive and negative at a level of words. We don't want to look solely at positive and negative, but we want to have something that travels between from one point to the other. And let me just go back into so I can explain here. Stop screen sharing. Okay, so when you look at the two glands and they're in the head, now what happens when you're dealing with accessing the other dimension, accessing your spirit guides? Those two towers, what they're showing you is they are on the physical level. Now what they do is we look at the energy not traveling up. Let's not go into the traveling up, but we simply want to understand the energy traveling between these two poles, or these two nodes, or these two glands in our head. What you want to do is you want to cause that connection, that circle. And that circle becomes very important. So you need a negative point and a positive point to start the energy shifting. Now you'll have a look in our body. We've also got a lot of dualities in the body. So in order to now access your spirit guides, you've got to realize the importance of the different halves in the body. Now, when we look at the pineal and pituitary, one is negative, one is positive. So what the result is that causes the energy to start shifting. But what people need to realize is this is where the line between acid and alkaline, that's the bottom line. The line between acid and alkaline, you really want to find that perfect midpoint, because if you're too far on the one node, one of those twin towers is going to get all the energy and the other one's not going to be able to cause that link. So you want to cause an equal flow of energy, not an eccentric or lopsided energy flow. So this is where alkaline, or not pure alkaline, but the balance between the two becomes so important in reaching your guides, reaching your spirit guides. So your pH balance is of utmost importance when it comes to being able to contact the other side. Now, it's not to say it's the only way, because people have done it when they go into psychic meltdowns or schizophrenic meltdowns. They can access it, but I'm trying to show a step-by-step process for people who want to do it and they want to figure out how to do it. This is the way to do it. Let's call it clinically. So you're gonna do a physical or an action process here. So you want to cause that circulation, which is going left to right. And this is where you're going to notice with your lungs. You've got two lungs. You're actually going to shift the energy from one to the other. So your lung energy, when you start understanding lung energy, kidneys, your kidneys are also going to be two different points, pushing and pulling, pushing and pulling. So the energy is going to circulate. And this is the whole point of the twin or the two towers. It's to cause that initial vortex. Can you see the wormhole? So we're starting to open it up here. So that's why you've got to get that circular movement. So we've got to start realizing that life consists of this duality on purpose, so that we can start opening that wormhole, start opening the link or the access or the portal to the other side. All right. I spoke in the last video of meditation. Now, the pineal gland requires meditation, which requires darkness. Once you go into a dark, remember, you're not going to close your eyes 100%. You're going to close it 80%. The 80% is, again, look at the logic, look at the duality I'm talking of here. The 80% means you've got 20% lights at the bottom of the eye and darkness 80%. So again, now you're causing a link this way. So you're causing a link between the left brain and right brain. You're causing a link forwards and backwards between the pineal and the pituitary, and then you're causing a vertical shift now. So you're causing three different axes here that you're accessing different energies. So you're starting to set up a place to actually enter another dimension. When you have a look that you've started to create this circular or this connection, this vortex, you then need to realize that one kidney, one lung, is always larger than the other. That's logical. Nobody has equal sized body parts. I know girls, when they mature and they're starting to get old or starting to get to the stage of puberty, they become very conscious of the formation of themselves, where they realize one is not equal to the other. That actually is key. they're actually more blessed because they have been made more conscious. Us guys, we don't look at this stuff. We just think, oh, you know, we just get on with it. But in actual fact, that imbalance is so important in understanding that that causes the push me, pull me action to start that vortex. So then once you've got there, so you've got the pineal gland, which is meditation. So you're going to go into meditation. So that's going to start the ball rolling. But the other thing to help that ball start rolling is you need relaxation. And that's where breath comes. So breath is going to breathe in and you're going to breathe out. You're going to do the rolling method of breathing. So you're going to focus initially purely on breath. You don't want to see things. You don't want to experience anything yet. You simply want to get that motion going so that you can relax the entire body. Through relaxation, you open the vortex. I mean, when somebody's holding their fist tight, they're not relaxed. You need to let go. That letting go is the opening of the vortex into another place. But you have to do, as I say, you've got to do your homework. Where am I going? And this is where meditation, you're going to go, and in meditation, you're going to see these wonderful places. Some you're going to say, I'm not going there again. Doesn't generally happen, but I'm saying to try and make a point. You need to understand where you're going. So I want to explain the Twin Towers. You've got this vortex going. So you've got the circular. So you've got to understand the duality of life, the good and bad. You don't only want to have good experiences, and you don't only want to think on bad experiences. Balance the two. By balancing the two, you cause the first part of the axis to open a wormhole to access your spirit guides.
You make me look at things a totally different way as well, because now I'm looking at Morris dancing, the way that Asians dance with the head moving like that, and I just see all the movement now, and it makes me think, how could you not see that before? You know,
but Andrew,
the Africans, the way they dance all the time, why are they always dancing? No one ever asked that question. You know,
No.
People just think, oh, it's just to be happy, but like if you look at every country's national dance, and it'll be some spinning sort of movement. So yeah, it could be
the
like
legs. You see, you don't want to just do standing still, but you see, meditation is a different aspect. But as you say, look at the dancing. The leg movement is very important. The speed or frequency of leg movement is very important. The frequency or the speed of the volume of the sound of the voice that comes out, very important. We're going to slow it down. We're going to increase the frequency. We're going to raise our consciousness through mantras or through sound. So you can either there's different methods. You can do mantras to calm the whole body down. When you calm it down, you just want to simply align positive and negative, that they're more equal, never 100% equal, but close, so that you can cause the interaction, the shift. That's the whole point. So yes, even in the katas, when you do the katas in martial arts, those katas are to create an energy. So you're going to do the double. You'll notice that they're usually done in pairs. Katas are never done just one. It's got a balance, a give-take. And there's so much of this, but we're not told this. Okay, then, so you've got the relaxation. That's on the one level. So the one gland. Okay, let me take it through here. The pineal gland requires meditation. It requires darkness. Because through the darkness, we're going to access a world other than this. But at the same time, the pituitary gland requires relaxation. So relaxation is going to cause you to be able to detach from this physical three-dimensional world, access it through a non-physical, and go out that way. But you don't want to be tense. If you're tense, you're not going to see, you're not going to hear, you're not going to feel. So you've got to learn to do the relaxation. Now, the whole point of this duality, the duality allows you to start, the basic, the bottom line of a duality is to show you that something else exists. The fact that something else exists is the start point to be able to talk with your spirit guides. That's the start. Once you've got the possibility, the potential that something else exists, that's why I say talking to yourself, very important. Consciously, go and do it consciously. You know, I'm trying to solve a problem, 2 plus 2. I'm talking with myself. That fact that I'm talking 2 plus 2, otherwise I could just do it in my head. Doesn't help. But the fact that you consciously, it's going to be a conscious thing initially. That means you are opening up yourself to the possibility that something else other than this place exists. That's the start. Okay, then we get the fellowship of the ring. Now, the fellowship of the ring is the joining of the two. That's where the uniting of the harmonizing, or now this Jodie Foster played in that one video where she was going through those rings. They were going to drop her in that I don't know, that round ball. They're going to drop her through there. But notice that the speed at which we were doing, so that in the Fellowship of the Rings, what I showed you in Tolkien's second book, that's now where you've got the frequency matching up, where now you've got that flow going. Now they're talking nicely with each other. Now what you do with energy, once you've got the physical energy flowing left to right, so your left part of your body with your right part of your body, once you've got that flow now mastered, where you've got it now moving at a good pace, not too fast, not too slow, don't get caught up by these technical terms, just understand that you just want that flow moving. Once you've got that flow and it's now balanced, that was the stage with that Jodie Foster movie where they dropped that ball through. It was at the right frequency. At the right frequency, you can travel. Now that is in a circular movement. We're on Earth and we're traveling around left lung, left kidney, right kidney, left brain, right brain. Once we've got that motion, once you've got that moving, the Fellowship of the Ring then moves you into a higher dimension. It now shifts your energy into a vertical or another plane that moves 90 degrees to what we're operating on. Now you start exiting this place. So that's where the breathing and the relaxation, the meditation, and the opening up. You will feel, I'm just starting to feel, and usually people want to go to sleep at that time. That's why you don't close your eyes 100%. You keep them half open so you can stay awake. That's the function. If you close your eyes, you'll fall asleep. You keep your eyes open so you can actually have a look and you're still conscious, so that it keeps you awake. Once you've got that level, that energy to that particular frequency, you will then find the next step occurs automatically once you've got that frequency right. Relaxation, you're breathing at the right speed, you've got the right consciousness, you're thinking on the right things. Now you change your plane. Instead of operating on one axis, you now shift your axis up. I want to take you, let me go into this. I actually wanted to start with this. This would have been the help. Let me start. Okay, here's this site. If you go to this site, Toropia. Now, yeah, I've got 14 famous towers of the world. Now, look at this. How many of them have got two pillars? Is it clear on your screen there, Andrew?
Yes. Yeah. Yes.
Okay. Look at this. How many different philosophies have got these two towers? We've got that one there. Okay. Look at this. We think, oh, well, this is just known as the Galata Tower. So we look at the one tower, but look next door. There's a smaller tower. Again, there's your duality, and people don't pay attention to this. So this is architecture showing you these things. Look at these two towers. We've got two towers everywhere. Why is this? Okay. Yeah, we got the two towers again. Okay, the one on the left, that was taken down. But the point is, isn't it ironic that we got two different towers? And look at the statue, what he's pointing to. He's saying, pay attention to the one. There's stories within that. What is this one? Okay, I'm not going to get into that one now. Again, look on the top of this, the very top there, you got two towers on this side, but look at the back. Look at those two towers. We never pay attention. The two towers, very, very important. I'm not going to go there. Okay, this is also going to be very important, what I'm going to talk about shortly, but look at your two towers there. You've always got a third one. Architecture and in the various mythical arts, mythologies, we'll often see two towers.
That looks like a Tesla tower.
Yeah, it does. Makes you wonder what he was actually using, doesn't it?
Yeah, you make us look at things totally different.
Andrew, it's there, and we just don't get taught these secrets. But look, these two towers, the one on the far right and the one on the far left, are of equal size. The one in the middle is a different size. Now, that is vital to understand that, because once you realize that you're causing a circular movement between the two outer towers, once those are flowing nicely, You then change the energy automatically. Once it's a natural process, you don't need to try. Once that energy is going naturally, like that Jodie Foster, that movie with Jodie Foster, once it's reached its right, correct frequency, she automatically went off into another dimension. So this is the function. We think that these are all three united, but they're not. The outside two operate together. This is known as, one of these is known as a masculine tower, one is known as the feminine tower, the middle one is known as the spirit tower. So once you've got your feminine and your masculine, that connection going on, once that connection reaches the correct frequency, automatically this one kicks into action. So that's the importance of this tower. It operates separately. We don't realize in architecture, we always try and look at the three together. You should never look at the three together. Look at the furthest or outermost towers together, get the energy right, and then you finally focus on this tall tower, which then changes your axis and it moves you up into another dimension. Let's see what else we got. I don't think I'm going to go anymore. Okay. My Tower of Babel, right. What's this Big Ben? Okay, Leaning Tower Pizza. No, I think that's it. Okay. All right, so then let's go back to... So it becomes important to understand that you must first get that flow moving. So that's where you have to understand duality of life, the good and the bad. Whenever you have a bad experience, look for what its opposite is and connect the two. Once you start connecting the two, and you can then amalgamate the two polar opposites, once you can get that energy flowing, you will then transcend that pain or that problem in life by now mastering and traveling in another axis. You'll go up. And then now we've got breathing. So we're traveling in the forward-backward motion, or the pineal pituitary gland. We got that forward motion. So we got the kidneys and the lungs, the left, right, the left brain, right brain. So we've got this energy moving left to right. We've got the breathing that's going forward and backwards, forward and backwards. Once you've got that, you automatically access that other dimension, and you now start traveling to the spirit world. And this is now how you start accessing the spirit world. That's where in the third book of J.R.R. Tolkien, he talked of the return of the king. The return of the king was now where you've totally left this physical world and you've gone into another world. You're no longer, you've returned back. So when people looked at that trilogy of Lord of the Rings, they get so enamored with what they saw around them that they lost the point. Now, this is what I want to say for people who want to access the spirit world. We get so caught up, so mesmerized, so enamored with what's going around in the details of the Lord of the Rings, the first one, the two towers. We get so caught up in that we forget the point. Now, that's where people lose their way, because you should not get distracted by, oh, well, I saw this. What does that mean? Oh, I saw this. What does that mean? That's not important. Remember your end goal. So you just want to do the process, keep it simple. Don't get enamored with, or I saw this, what did that mean? Or I saw that, what did that mean? That's often when I find I help people initially with meditation, is they ask me, well, what did all that mean? It's not important for now. It's like when a girl has got engaged and she goes to go and show her friends her ring. We don't all pay attention to what shoes she's wearing, what dress she's wearing, what colors is she wearing today, what did she have for breakfast, how's she done her hair. We're not paying attention to that, but that's what people do when they start meditating. What do the shoes mean? What did the dress mean? Or why is it that type of dress? You see, we get lost. Instead of staying on the process and understanding, don't get so caught up in all that. Don't make it important, because that's going to lose traction to get you to your destination.
You can't understand everything, can you? So there's things that you just have to stay on track with.
They're not important for now. They will become important later on, because how memory and how other dimensions work is other dimensions. When you access other dimensions, we access them for information. We access them for raising of our consciousness. Now, if you're going to look at all the different party colors, like a carnival, if you're going to notice the carnival on the side, you're not going to enjoy the circus, because you're going to get enthralled with one thing. You're going to get trapped with something else. Try and overview that. You can take it in subconsciously, because when you come back from your journey, what you're now going to realize is you're now going to recall. So this is what people want to also understand with talking with your spirits, your spirit guides, is they will give you feedback. Now the feedback becomes valuable when you get the basic message. Later on, when you dissect that message, then you can pay attention to the doll's red shoes and the nice floral dress and the hairstyle, because they are now going to add meat onto the message that you got. But you really want to stay focused on your message. So this is where talking with your spirit guides, you've got to have a destination you want to reach.
So what was the last thing you went to do, or information you got?
How do you mean?
When was the last time?
When I speak of...
Yeah. What was the last information you went to ask them?
Andrew, people don't realize they're doing it all the time. So when I do it, because I focus a lot on astrology, I want to understand different aspects that are not taught in this world about astrology. So what the result is, I've just been dealing with Neptune now. So my latest one this afternoon is I wanted to understand Neptune. So I want to know, because everybody, when they talk of Neptune, king of the underworld, he's this big guy with this trident, which is same as Odin's spear. But when I speak with my guides, what they do is I know what my question is, and I'll focus solely on that. They will then give me a concept, a picture, a whole picture, and they will say, look at this. Then I will recall, after I've come out of that experience, I will then recall, but wait a minute, I saw this on the way, and I saw that as well, and there was that, and I don't know how it ties up. As you start dissecting this picture and getting the answer, what happens is these extra little details add meat to your carcass, so that you can now start seeing, okay, I get a more wholesome picture now. So that's where you don't want to focus on everything in the beginning. You will lose your way. And this is what so many people, this is why when they start out in meditation, they're expecting results, but they get so distracted by all these extras that they lose their way. And they never actually get to their destination. And this is what, unfortunately, puts so many people off with not succeeding in meditation. It's because they're asking too many questions. They're getting distracted by the details, which should only come later. When you want to write a story,
to meditate?
Andrew, being psychic from a child, I never had to learn. I didn't realize I could meditate. I did get in my 20s where I went and read a book to see, or how do I actually meditate? What's the process to meditation? And I had a look, and they make it so difficult. They make it really complicated how to meditate, and it's not that difficult. When you think, when you're trying to solve a problem, that's called meditation. So you just learn to get rid of all the nonsense. You want a quiet place. You say to everybody, just leave me alone. I'm trying to work out this problem. It's that simple, Andrew. Meditation is not a magic. It's not something special. It's